As she opens her presents, Bianca Gazzola is able to forget, at least for a little while, all that she's been through.
She liked that. They both liked it at the hospital. A Gabby's Playhouse doll!
This is a Christmas story years in the making.
And we were playing outside with neighbors who were a little bit older, but generally, other small children. And I kind of looked around and everybody was bundled up the same, hats, mittens, coats, whatever. But her lips were blue. And I was like, you guys see this, right? Like, why is she blue and nobody else is?
Bianca's mom, Laura, says subsequent visits to the pediatrician and to a heart specialist revealed that Bianca had restrictive cardiomyopathy. That's where the heart's pumping ability is limited because the muscle doesn't relax normally. Bianca would need a heart transplant. Laura and husband Nick were now, as they put it, heart parents, starting what they knew could be a very long journey. For 2 years, life was as normal as it could be with a daughter who needed a new heart. But it was in early 2022 that the journey takes a precipitous turn.
And we were both just like, it's just a cough. Little did we know it was a heart failure cough. That's the cough that is very obvious signs to those who know that that's actually your heart failing.
It was at that point that the Gazzolas were referred to Mayo Clinic and Dr. Rebecca Amaduri. It's also where their journey takes a detour.
Sometimes with restrictive cardiomyopathy, the pressures in the lungs get very high, something called pulmonary hypertension. And because the heart is stiff and doesn't relax normally, you kind of get a backup of pressure into the lungs and you get this pulmonary hypertension. And because of how high her pressures were and how severe it was, we couldn't go straight to heart transplantation.
Bianca was admitted to the hospital that day. Dr. Amaduri and the team at Mayo began working to get Bianca's pressures down. Just how dire this situation became clear one day when Laura was called to Bianca's room.
There was probably, 25 people in her room.
Flurry of activity.
Crash cart was at the end of her bed, and they had paddled her once, and I had to watch her get paddled a second time. But then she was safe for another little bit.
To help Bianca's heart function and to lower her lung pressure, she was connected to a biventricular assist device, or BiVAD. Slowly, surely, the efforts began to pay off. She was added to the transplant list, and in September, 6 months after being admitted to the hospital, Bianca received a new heart. Then, just before Thanksgiving, Bianca was discharged, and for the first time in 8 months, she headed home.
That's our house! Yay!
Home for the holidays.
I think for both of us, we had a hard time coming up with, well, what do we want for Christmas? Because the things that we wanted couldn't be wrapped, under the tree. But I think sitting there Christmas morning with our kids opening presents, and the 5 of us at home.
Yeah.
I think for us, that's really the miracle of going home for Christmas, and being home was like the first step towards the rest of our lives.
The days and weeks since have been filled with follow-up appointments, and while there are still challenges, Dr. Amaduri is optimistic about Bianca's future.
When we transplant children that are her age, the average lifespan of that transplanted heart is about 20 years. However, the field of heart transplantation is only about 40 years old, so if we get 20 years out, who knows what we will have to offer her 20 years down the line.
For Nick and Laura, this entire journey of being heart parents has given them a unique perspective.
I mean, after going through what we've been through, we hear the tantrums, and most parents, of course, that's, nails on a chalkboard. But for us, it's like, listen to those healthy lungs.
Yeah.
That she can do that, because she couldn't for the longest time. She could barely talk. So having the lung capacity and the healthy lungs and a healthy heart to be able to scream is amazing. It's a miracle in and of itself.
Come on, cutie.
For the Mayo Clinic News Network,
Say bye-bye.
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 I'm Joel Streed.
Thank you.